While everybody's out here talking about the Mavic 2 Pro 6 months later, I thought it would only be fair that I talk about the Mavic 2 Zoom 6 months later. Yeah, they're sort of similar, they have similar bodies, but the cameras are completely different, and if you're on the fence of buying a Zoom or a Pro, hopefully this will help you out. Stick around. What's up? Welcome back, everybody. My name is Original Dobo. For those of you who don't know me and are new on my channel, I do drone and tech related content here. So if that's at all interesting to you, you may want to hit that subscribe button at the end of this video. Also, side note, I am going to be getting these shirts mailed out to you guys that have asked for them. I've just been really traveling a lot. This is the first time I'm in my studio for about 2 weeks, and I'm only here for 2 days. So I'm going to have somebody mail these out. Just bear with me. It's been crazy traveling lately. So the Mavic 2 Zoom's been out since August. DJI opted to release 2 different Mavics this year, and I went with the Zoom. There was 2 factors that really played into the part of why I chose this, and I've said it before, but the 2 different focal lengths, the 24 and 44 millimeter focal lengths, was really interesting to me. And then obviously at the time it was $200 less than the Mavic 2 Pro. So I went with the Zoom because it seemed like more people were interested in the Pro than the Zoom, and I think it was a good choice at the time. Since then, I have ended up with a Mavic 2 Pro, which I do use as well, but for the majority of the 6 months, I have used the Zoom. So I'm going to talk specifically about its strong points, its weaknesses, and then hopefully it'll help if anybody is thinking about buying this drone now. So let's start off with the chassis of the drone, and this can apply as well for the Mavic 2 Pro. The chassis of the drone has been folded up numerous times and packed in a backpack and traveled on airplanes, buses, trains even. I've literally taken this drone almost everywhere I go. It's been my go-to for the past 6 months, and the chassis is unharmed. I see no stress cracks. I don't see any damage anywhere, which is a really good sign because I know with my Phantom 4 Pro, 6 months in, I was already starting to see stress cracks on it, but I don't see any of that on the Mavic 2 Zoom or my Mavic 2 Pro. So that's a really good sign. That's also a good reason why you should never use a skin on your drone. If you're using skins, you can't see if there's any stress cracks or damage occurring. So keep that in mind for anybody who's looking to use a skin. Not totally hating on skins, but you just can't see things happening as they happen. Battery life has also been really excellent. I have seen no variance in my battery life. Now, granted, I do rotate my batteries between 4 different batteries on my drones, so that does help a bit, but I am still seeing 26 minutes of full flight before RTH, which I think is pretty impressive still. 26 minutes is still respectable, and I can totally forgive that we're not getting a full 30 minutes of flight time with that, because honestly, 26 minutes, I can get a lot of work done in that time. With 4 batteries, that covers me well over an hour, so I'm pretty happy with that. Software has been pretty solid. We've seen numerous firmware updates, some good, some bad. I think most notably the thing that drives me nuts the most is the new firmware updates that are putting airports in places where airports don't exist. And that makes certain flights a struggle with these these approach paths being there. So, I mean, again, that's not really something that is Mavic 2 Zoom related, but it is software. So I did want to go ahead and mention it. It's just annoying, especially where I live. There's a Class D airport and it's closed at 7 a.m. And a lot of times I'll try to shoot houses when it's closed, like 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. in that window where I know the airspace is just general. And yeah, it doesn't function that way. So DJI needs to work on that. We have seen the Mavic get Waypoints 2.0. Now, personally, I don't use Waypoints, but there are numerous videos out there on the Waypoints. So if you're interested, I'd suggest searching for Waypoints 2.0 Mavic. You'll find plenty of people using them, and they supposedly work pretty well. So let's get into the main key difference here between the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro, and that's the camera. Now, the camera's been a very controversial thing on both Mavics because a couple of months back, I made a video that the Mavic 2 Pro wasn't seeing the bigger picture. And I sort of encourage people that if they want a right off the SD card image, to go ahead and lean towards the Mavic 2 Zoom. And more recently, I made a video talking about why you should never shoot in 1080p or 2.7K on the Mavic 2 Zoom. And while all those videos still hold true, I only shoot in 4K for the most part. Primarily, I'm shooting at 4K 30 frames per second. And if I want that more cinematic look, basically I'm taking that 30 frames per second timeline and I'm slowing all of my footage down to about 80%, which gives it that nice sort of dreamy feel. So if you ever wonder why my footage looks a little bit slower, that's the reason why. And I only shoot in 4K 30 frames per second. I've been meaning to do an updated video talking about my favorite settings for the Mavic 2 Zoom. So if you want to see me go ahead and do that, make sure you leave a comment down below. But 4K 30 is what I used. And I'm going to use the footage that I shot when I was up in Philadelphia, because honestly, I feel like it is the best footage I've shot to date with that drone, and it looks really good. Now, for all this footage, I was shooting in D-Cinelike, and I was doing a light color grade. I think that's the best way you can see how well D-Cinelike is versatile. The other thing with this drone is you don't get D-Log-M or hybrid log gamma, and I really don't think that is an Achilles heel to this drone. One of the things I was complaining about my last trip to Philadelphia was the fact that I brought the Mavic 2 Pro and I can only shoot in hybrid log gamma or D-Log-M at H.265. There was no H.264. H.265 codec is much more intensive than the 264, and it does make my workflow that much harder. I can't scrub through the footage easily. I have to render everything out. It's taxing, computer heats up, so it's a bit of a struggle when I do use hybrid log gamma or D-Log-M. With the Mavic 2 Zoom, no problems in that regard. I can use D-Cinelike. It's really easy to color grade for a beginning person who's just starting to get into flying drones and wants that little added edge, and they don't know a lot about color grading. D-Log-M is really hard to work with, but D-Cinelike is really easy to work with, and you can give your footage a really nice look without having to know too much or even do too much. Pop the saturation, maybe add a lot, and you're good to go, and you got a nice look. Images, really solid. Photos, they're really solid. Again, shooting 4K, I've seen no noise. Where the Mavic 2 Zoom really falls apart though is in low light situations. I've noticed at night, at least for my drone, the footage really does fall apart. I did a video many months back where I was flying at night, and I actually had to clean some clips with a cleaner just so I can get some of the noise out of them in the evening and actually right at night, as to where the Mavic 2 Pro really didn't struggle at all at night, and there was very limited noise thanks to that variable aperture and a higher ISO rating. The Mavic 2 Zoom only maxes out at 3200. The Pro is hitting 6400, so you have a little bit more of an ISO rating there, and of course that 1-inch sensor does help the Pro out. So if you have any intention on flying at night, you may want to lean towards the Pro, but if you have no intention and daytime to dusk is where you're at, then you're going to be perfectly fine with the Mavic 2 Zoom. The two different focal lengths, I really do appreciate it because it does get me closer to an object, and I sort of use this as well to fake an aperture. So it isn't a constant aperture on this, so you can actually zoom in on something and get yourself like a 3.5 aperture and try to get your exposure values a little bit closer to what they should be for your frame rate, which I use this trick all the time. It works because again, we don't have variable apertures, but that focal length does bring a different aperture size. So something to think about with the Zoom over the Pro focal lengths. I also love that parallax effect I get. I really don't utilize the dolly zoom. I think it's been overdone, but I do like orbiting things with an extended focal length because it does make it look like everything behind it's moving way fast, and it just looks cool. But all in all, I really have been enjoying this. I have shifted over to using the Mavic 2 Pro professionally because the 20 megapixel camera stills are pretty awesome. But if you go ahead and look at my Instagram, you'll notice that 90% of those photos were taken on the Zoom, and I've only just recently started posting a few photos from the Pro, and I'll use the hashtag so you can see, what I shot it on. But for the most part, everything's been with the Zoom, and I've been really happy with it, and I think that it's still the best consumer drone that you can get today. If you're looking to get a drone, never bought a drone, and you don't know what you should get between the Zoom or the Pro, and you want to save $200, you don't have any intention on color grading, you want images to look great right off the SD card, well, the Mavic 2 Zoom is still definitely the way to go today. 2019, I think they outdid themselves with this particular model, and the focal lengths are really enjoyable. But like I said, that's it. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. Didn't want to really take up too much of your time, but I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, drop it a like. If you didn't, that other button tends to really work fine. Thank you, trolls. But as always, guys, stay original. One more thing. If you haven't already, We do have a podcast channel that we are developing, Billy and myself, called the Overcast Podcast. I'll leave a link down in the description below. Be awesome if you could just check it out. If you enjoy any of that style of content or just audio content that you want to listen to, well, definitely check that out. We do have some surprises coming this week, Wednesday. I think something is making a return that I used to do on this channel, but I don't know. Things are still up in the air, so I don't know. I'll see you later.